All right, y'all. This is Throwing Light. I'm LTJ Reeves, and if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. This is episode 103, and we've got Doug the Bronco here.
Hello, hello.
Is it Doug Bronco or Doug the Bronco?
I've been going by Doug Bronco, but it was like on stage, Doug the Bucking Bronco, but I wasn't gonna make them type all that out, you know? So,
Yeah, no, it's kind of like your state, like not doing the whole state, like with the plantation part and all that type of stuff. Where
oh,
in Massachusetts or Rhode Island?
you will say there it's the greater area of.
So, are you in Rhode Island or are you in Massachusetts?
I live in Massachusetts, so I moved up here probably about 11 years ago from Florida, so a much bigger upgrade. And I represent New England, so for a long time, Providence Eagle didn't have a title, and so I kind of enveloped the entire area. But Antonio and I, we share the same space.
Interesting. Okay, so how long have you been in Massachusetts?
How long have I been? I'm going on 12 years this January. So my first winter in Massachusetts was the year that they got like over 40 inches of snow. And so coming from Florida, it was quite the big winter. So nothing has felt as bad since. And I've stayed here ever since.
So you moved to, so you're in Boston?
Yeah, so I'm in Greater Boston. I'm about 20 minutes outside the city.
Okay. Name the place. I've been to Pivot before.
Oh, okay, so I'm in Waltham. So Peabody is about like 30 minutes north, closer to Salem, and I'm like west past Harvard University. So, I mean, in reality, no matter where you go in Boston, you're driving about 45 minutes. So it's just easier to tell people I live in Boston when they ask.
That sounds like Houston a little bit, I guess. So I'm interested in this. So you've come from Florida to Massachusetts. You became a leather person while you were in Massachusetts.
Yes.
Okay. So you were much younger when you lived in Florida.
Yes, I moved to Boston right after I turned 21.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. What has it been for you? Like, how did you get involved into the leather community? Like, what was your doorway? Who brought you into that?
Yeah, so I wasn't really a big like nightlife person prior to COVID. I was matriculating through school the majority of the time, and I always had two jobs. So a lot of the time, like going out or any sort of nightlife was just not in the cards. But something that I always did, it was twice a month, the first and last Friday of the month, I attended a kink party called Fascination. Fascination was held in the legendary bar Jacques, where, famous drag queens Katya and stuff performed at. And it was from 9 to midnight, so pretty early. And it was just a social. There was no sexual activity or anything there. And I used to go and essentially just wear sportswear. But while I was there, I met Roberto, who was the current reigning Mr. New England Leather. Became very, very close friends with him. And post-COVID, decided to just randomly throw my hat in 2021 to run for New England Leather, in which then I just got enveloped in the scene.
Okay, so 2021,
Yeah.
your birth. Would you say that's your birth?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I've always been super intrigued by the kink and fetish scene, but that was definitely like my first gateway into it and to see like how the community enveloped people, especially people that were willing to put themselves out there. I mean, running for a title and walking on stage is no easy feat. So seeing the support that people gave in just showing up, and being willing to be one of those people, really kind of made me love and fall in love with the community very quickly.
What has been a lot of your focus as New England, Mr. New England Leather? Like, what has been kind of your platform?
So, I mean, I've always done a lot of community service. I've been a performer in New England since I moved here, and a lot of the money I make goes to charity, and it always has been. I work with a show called The Slut Cracker every year, and my entire paycheck goes to decriminalizing sex work. So that's just something that I've always been a part of. In regards to the leather scene in Boston is really, really small. We used to kind of be kind of the epicenter of leather in the Northeast besides New York, and it just really hasn't been that way. We've lost a lot of queer spaces. We've probably got maybe at most three bars that are dedicated completely to being gay and queer. And like, being a part of the fetish community is incredibly small, right? So there's not a lot, and we do have some clubs, but the issue that I've always seen with the clubs is that they're very private and guarded, and they don't intermingle with each other, and because of that, there's no support for each other's events, and because of that, people don't go to the events, and then the events fail. And so winning this title, a big part of having it was to make sure that I was not giving attention to one particular group. I was not going to be a part of a club and then not leave the other club involved. So every event I've done, they've all gotten the invitation. They've all attended. I've attended all their events. It's been I am going to be there for you as long as you come back to the community. So my platform has been trying to make the community more of a strengthened place in Boston. We don't need to be each other's competition. And that's what I spoke about at IML. Like, we're already such a small community. Why are we fighting with each other and taking away each other's platforms?
Dr. Todd and I had this conversation yesterday when I was in Houston. We were talking about segregation in the gay community, and it starts at the bars. At least that's what I believe.
Yeah,
And we have the issue here of, and I mean, look, we have the issues of bars just not wanting to work together and then being very territorial. Even here in Houston, I've even, told people and, mentored and stuff like, hey, like, I want to make this effort to do this event and bring all of the bars together. And I was like, well, good luck. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And I just really wish we didn't have that, like, defeatist, like, things can't change attitude about certain things. And I
yeah,
think that we are really, really just dropping the fact that nobody wants to make that move and be like,
yeah.
you know what? You are a queer business. I am a queer business. We can be successful at the same times. We can share customers.
Yeah. We have a big issue with that in Boston, even, with trying to make events. Some bars have been like, well, if you're talking to this bar, we don't want to work with you just because we don't want to cannibalize. But they have different clienteles at different times, right? Like, the same people attend all of their events, but one bar is famous for karaoke and it ends at 10, and then the other bar doesn't open till 10. So, they're like less than a mile away from each other. Why not? Talk with each other and make sure that their events don't bleed in and then capitalize off that, right? Like, if you think about it, they're going to pregame at that one bar and then go to the other. Like, people do that anyways. So why aren't the bars accepting it? But because of that, they're getting territorial and, they're unwilling to share business. And it ruins a lot for the performers and the people that are trying to impact the community. They make it incredibly hard.
Yes, and I don't know, I don't know what the cure or the dialogue that needs to happen to get everyone to sit at that table and maturely talk about how we can be cohesive. A lot of people go to the bars, and then, so you're saying that you have three bars in Boston?
Yeah, so we've got I Jacques is considered a gay bar, but I almost think of it as a cabaret at this point. It's just not the level that it used to be prior. But we have Blend, which is a restaurant that anyone can attend, but its nightlife scene is queer. We have D Bar that is queer owned as well, and same thing, restaurant, but nightlife is queer. And then we have Legacy and Royale, which is not gay clubs or bars. They just have a gay night and they happen monthly. So, beyond that, we do have a brewing company that is gay owned, but yet again, not all their events are that, but they're big supporters. And those are really our spaces. The Eagle in Boston closed prior to COVID. Machine, which is a long-term club, closed prior to COVID as well. And a lot of other spaces are just tanking. When it comes to like lesbians in the community, they're lucky to have a night a month. There is very little lesbian space, and often any space for queer women in Boston. It's become incredibly competitive and hurtful. So, but luckily we've had some businesses be a little more willing to understand the situation. But Boston is just, it's very small. There's not a lot of gay business, and COVID definitely was a part of it, but those businesses were already getting tanked prior.
Why do you, you know, So, why do you feel that women are just getting like a breadcrumb? Like, where is that energy coming from?
Why do you feel like women are getting a breadcrumb?
Like, when that was in terms of just having one night, like, and that be it, right? That's all there is.
Well, I mean, if we really look back at it, for the longest time, women, especially queer women and lesbians, are often seen as they're not a part of the community, and that's just factually not correct. Being, gay should be an umbrella term. It doesn't just mean men. And at the same time, history says that LGBT, lesbians are at the forefront because they were the first line of defense and support when men went through the AIDS crisis. So it's just really easy to like forget that. A lot of men often, forget that women and lesbians are a part of our community. A lot of businesses, they have a slightly different culture because they are a different sex and gender. That, businesses operate and treat them differently too. They think they're probably not going to monetize as much off of them, so they just don't give them as much attention. Even our sports in Boston, we have a gay league, and they just started doing a women only league by choice. Like you're willing to be a part of both, but they didn't have their own to begin with. So, it's definitely taken a lot of calling to action. But yeah, in Boston specifically, like, female presenting people are often, they get the short end of the stick. And, Fascination, for example, my first love in the kink scene is blown up. I mean, they're even expanding in New York, and they've rebranded from being just solely for men to being for all kinksters, female presenting. They'll even have female dominatrix be hosts of the event. They'll bring in a different clientele every single time. And we need more clubs and spaces to be willing to do that with their clientele.
Okay. As someone that's a performer and you have kind of a bit of an edge, I would think, in terms of bringing not just leather, but artistry, dance. I've been obsessed with you
Oh,
prior to, I mean, I actually been on this before IML or anything like that, I believe. And you are talented. I got to see you at IML on the stage, and you were it was just it was it that was a show.
oh, thank you.
That was quite a show you put on IML. Fifth place, am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. I was
Phenomenal.
second going into prelims and ended fifth, which I can't complain about. I was incredibly happy about that.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So, okay, so tell me, how has that blended into your career as a leather person?
Yeah, so I mean, what I really liked about IML is that I was able to be kind of really authentically me as much as possible, and people really saw it and enjoyed it. Like I got called showman a lot, which I thought was really interesting. But in terms of, my upbringing, like going into the gay bars as a little 21-year-old in Florida, the first people that took me under their wing were Black trans women and drag performers. Coming to Boston, bleeding from graduating in a dance class into trying to find the next best thing, I fell into burlesque work, which is mostly female presenting as well. And, a lot of my community leaders and mentors are, women and performers. And because of that, I've been able to really embrace different sides of me that are often shunned upon in the leather scene, like I am unapologetically flamboyant when it comes to how I perform, or, there's different sides of being flashy. It's not just all about being, you know, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Matte. Like it's not all just about being matte leather. There's a flair and an edge to it because leather at the heart was about standing out, right? It was a completely different thing. If you want to look at the Village People or Tom of Finland, it stood out for a reason. And I think you definitely see that with that whole new age of leather coming in. Not everything is just bluff. And that's what's really like kind of bled into me being, a leather man. I've been able to explore those things. That was a really thrown out answer. Hopefully I answered it for you.
No, but let's talk burlesque more.
Sure.
What do you enjoy about being a burlesque performer?
I've had a big issue with my appearance and confidence for a long time, and I've been very fake it till you make it sort of situation. But growing up as a performer, something that I've always known is that I really definitely come alive on stage. So when it comes to like, for example, IML, which I viewed be the part of being on stage as essentially a burlesque show, um, it's like a whole nother side of me comes out, and it's probably the sexiest I feel. And that's really why I love, burlesque. I have to be on stage and I have to sell it, right? And it has to be a good sale if you want to buy it. If you're gonna know what I really feel about myself, you're not gonna buy it. Maybe if it's on sale, but I gotta really believe it as well. So those moments on stage, it's fully me believing that I can be the hottest thing in the room, and it's a great high to come off of when you walk off the stage.
So, did you have everything planned out when you walked out on stage? Did you know what you were going to do?
Kind of, not really. So when it came to physique and personality, I had, like a kind of an outline, like make sure you go to stage left, make sure you go to stage right, make sure you use the space, like it's a pretty big stage. I was just hoping that I made top 20, so I didn't plan anything that night. I didn't plan my speech. I didn't plan the pink pony outfit, what I would do on stage during that. So I kind of look back on it thinking that I could have made other decisions. But like there's no regrets. I all I wanted kind of was top 20. So when I finally got there, I was like, all right, now I can just have fun on stage. Like this is just going to be me living truthfully in the moment. Um,
You tell me that. You did tell me that.
yeah, yeah. It was just, I was just, happy to be there.
No, I think you did phenomenal. And so I want to show people how talented you are. Okay. So you got like a little music video that's like 1 minute and 47 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to play it. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So we're going to do this. So give me a second, everybody. Let's see here. When we're doing technology. All right, here we go. We're going to share my screen. Stop share. Then I am going to go ahead and make this big. Can you see it, Doug? Can you see
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Where's the music? Uh-oh, it's not playing the music.
On the bottom right, you have the volume all the way down.
Oh my God, just joking. Back. I don't care. This is a live show. We're going back. Here we go. All right, now y'all can hear. Is that good now? Awesome. Let's go back to the real show now. How do I get back
It's
to
a long 1 minute and 40 seconds.
that? Was it? Okay, so now we're not sharing anymore. Stop sharing. All right, we're back, right? Can you see me?
Yeah.
Cool. I watched that like so many times, especially the part where you end by coming up and then in the split. And I was just like, and you did that at IML, so I was really glad that move. So I was looking at all this stuff before you competed. I'm like, this dude is going to. I was like, this dude's going to kill it. Like I was expecting you to do very, very well.
Thank you.
So I called it. I figured you were someone that would do a good job. And I think if you're talking about being authentic and being yourself, you combined all these elements. We got to talk a little bit about your interview too at IML, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Toaster bath, right?
I was in quite my feels probably when we talked about it.
Toaster bath.
Yeah, toaster bath. Like,
Tell everybody what toaster bath is.
so I mean, my sense of humor comes from, Hunter Nelson will say he hates it, but it's a level of self-deprecation. I like to be the biggest part of the joke, And Jamal asked me how I handle people that don't necessarily like me or my leather. And I answered, live, laugh, toaster bath. I did go on to say that, what their opinions of me are none of my business, and I'm more interested in growing and really harping on that stuff in the past or how what someone thinks about me in the space when I'm trying to make change, that's going to prevent me growing. But that beginning of the answer was pretty visceral to the point where when I made it through the panel, they brought it up again. So I definitely left the interview feeling a certain way, but live and learn kind of stuff. And I'm still looking for that toaster.
So what is in your future? What's your plan? You're going to Dory, right?
Yeah, so I'll be at Bear Week for the next 10 days. We'll be putting on a fundraiser at the Vault and Crown and Anchor with a different night. It's one of the first times that there's been something during Bear Week. Crown and Anchor is technically my home bar, so I'm really excited to be doing something in P-Town. I'll then be at Dory Alley, and then I have a few different fundraisers partnered with Antonio, Mr. Providence Eagle, as well as some stuff with D-Bar and Blend in Boston. A lot of the proceeds for the events I do benefit ACOS, which is AIDS Care Ocean State. It's a foundation in Providence. So, I've tried to really keep that in a line. And then post that, Folsom, and then I step down, looking for my next child.
Antonio was literally the episode before you, and that was not planned. That just fell into it. But
Yeah.
everybody, Antonio was the episode before this, so go watch that episode, Mr. Providence Evil. 2024.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dougie Poo. We're at the point of the show where I ask everyone the same question, and it essentially is there any aspect of our community that you feel that we don't shed any light on or enough light on?
Yeah, well, I think the conversation has been had a little bit more frequently, but I think that the communities, the face of the community no longer has to be cisgender and white. And I think for the longest time, the building blocks of the queer community have not been that, and they should be acknowledged and represented more. Whether that is the thought of including them in the space, the idea of putting them at the table, or understanding that, I've been called all-American, but I'm not because I don't look like all Americans. And I think we need to treat others the same way.
So more diversity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had, but so, there's been some instances where even in our own community, we have to look at it because we've had, I mean, prior to IMO that was on the judging panel, you would have went on, got removed for, white nationalist ties, which is crazy, right? I saw your, like, it's wild, huh? But that I'm surprised it got as far as it did. But I was at a pride meeting for our pride here in August, and they said that the people that they have the most trouble out with every year are the log cabin Republicans, and those are the gay Republicans. And I just find that very interesting that it's your own kind, I guess, a lot of times that you have to look out for. And so do you feel like there are internal threats in our community that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I come like I've talked about earlier, I'm from Florida, and Florida is no stranger to not understanding its own population or best interest. When it comes to, internal threats, I mean, often these people kind of all look and represent the same because they come from a level of privilege that they don't understand that, the hardships that others face exist because they've never faced them. It's ignorance on their level. They're not willing to listen. And maybe one day when it affects them, they'll be able to open their eyes. But the issue is they're not willing to open their eyes until it affects them. So, they definitely exist in all communities and very much so in ours. I mean, you have to think back to 10 years ago, people were saying no fats, femmes, or Asians on their grinder profiles, right? We've at least gotten people to stop doing that. I think we can get people to stop doing a lot more too.
Yeah, I hope we don't backslide with that kind of behavior,
Yeah.
with what we have going on. I mean, because when I was growing up, stupid was just it was we were saying, "Oh, you're being gay, like stupid, like that's how or that's so gay, that's so stupid." We had commercials that came out later on. Uh,
Hillary Duff.
it was and Wanda Sykes.
Yeah.
Like, then they would come out and say not to say that. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was cool, but that was during the Obama administration. And so you just don't have that kind of cultural etiquette and awareness, and we don't have that right now because these people don't think outside of themselves at all. So
Yeah.
it's difficult to have any kind of dialogue, but it's not worth it right now because they don't want to listen. um Okay, well, I guess that brings us towards the end of the show. Thank you for coming on here, Doug. I hope to see you at some point in the future.
Yeah.
I look forward to what you do. I know I'm working my butt to get up there and come to Providence and Boston, so it's going to happen. I'm going to manifest it. I've been wanting to get up there. I'm going to talk to Roberto and see if he can find me something to do.
Yeah, please do. I mean, probably a little too close because the Eagles contest is in August, but mine's in November, and we've got Spooky Bear around Halloween, which is the Ursa Men puts together. I think it's the Ursa Men. They put together a Halloween event in P-Town. We also have Mate's first Mate weekend, and then we have my contest all between October to November. And if anyone wants to go to P-Town during those times, it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot more fun. The community needs it then the most because it's not busy season. Come to a cool vacation spot and support it.
It's actually November. I was thinking for that reason for that contest. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we'll see. All right, Doug. Well, you got one last thing you got to do, my friend. Are you ready? When I count to three, you want to say if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right.
Yeah, absolutely.
One, two, three.
If you're not throwing light, you're not acting right.
I can count on you to do something clever, something.
Yeah.
Right. All right, y'all. That brings us to the end of another episode. I will see y'all next week. I don't know who it's going to be, so tune in. Bye.